Welcome back, everybody. We got week 9 at Double D's. I'm Daryl.
And I'm Dave.
And we're here with a special guest appearance this week. We have Mr. Kane Netco. He's got a couple insights into some of these games, into some fantasy. He's an avid fantasy player and the best auto drafter I've ever run into in fantasy leagues. I mean, the guy auto drafts in leagues, he wins leagues that way. I don't know how he does it.
He beat me last year in your 2-quarterback league, and I'm pretty sure we're at the top of the list again in Hamburglar with cheese. Don't think I forgot about that, Kane. I'm coming for you this year.
Look out, buddy. All right, we got plenty of injuries this week. I mean, they're all over the place. Steve Smith. I mean, the guy, he's old. He's trying to come back and ball out for his last year. He had a full practice in. He's likely to play. I don't know how effective he's going to be. What do you think on that?
I love the fact that he's going to be back. It brings value back to Mike Wallace. We haven't talked about Mike Wallace in a couple weeks. He comes back as a very good DFS play and standard play. Steve Smith Sr. in PPR, healthy. I don't think he's a decoy. They've kept him out the couple weeks. I think he's all systems to go. Must start there. Look for some double-digit points coming from Steve Smith this week.
Hey, it's hard to get away from that when Flacco throws 45 to 50 times. All right, we got Hunter Henry. He's out. You got Antonio Gates. You got to love that fact. Alex Smith, Spencer Ware, both done.
I really like Foles this week, talking about Smith.
Yes.
Foles should be a very good plug-and-play. We'll go over some stats with him when we go through our games. But, yeah, definitely like Foles this week. Don't be worried if you are a Chiefs fan.
Okay, Carlos Hyde. He's got an AC joint problem in his shoulder. He was supposed to play this week. He's out. You go with Sean Drawn, or you go with Dwan Harris?
I like Dwan Harris here. He looked like the better back last week. A lot of mobility. I like his jump cut there. The only downside that he has is he does have dreads. And you know me, if I see dreads, I'm tackling you by them.
Nothing wrong with that, as long as they're not the pink dreads of Mr. D'Angelo.
Hey, that's Steeler Nation, baby. We got a little too much pride for that. Them pink dreads stand for breast cancer awareness, and here at Double D's, we are down for the cause.
No doubt. Plenty of running backs. We got LaShawn McCoy. He's limited in practice. Mr. Rex Ryan. I don't like betting against him, but the man said he should play for Monday.
Last time that LaShawn McCoy was iffy with his hamstring injury was 2 weeks ago. He didn't even score 5 points in our PPR league. I'm still a fan of Gillisley this week. If you can avoid both those running backs, do it. If you have LaShawn McCoy, obviously you're going to play him. But if you have a better option, not even just a better option as a name, a better matchup, don't be afraid to go play it. We're in week 9 here. This is where the playoff stretch is starting to come in, where you can separate yourself from the bottom of the pack, from the middle of the pack to the top of the pack. Go out there, take your chances. I say if you have any questions, write them to us, especially if it involves LaShawn McCoy. We're here for you.
I agree. And LaShawn McCoy is one of those guys. He's had a great season so far. He's always got these nagging injuries, hamstrings specifically. And it's something, you know what? I really feel it's something that's going to be popping up off and on throughout the year, especially with it getting colder. He's not a good cold weather back. I see him struggling. If you can sell him for something and get value for him, I really think you have to.
Oh, we talked about that last week,
Yep.
and I sold on him with Antonio Brown, comboed him in a deal to bring back A.J. Green. We both know when winter comes, his leg injuries hit, and it's not even winter, and they've already hit. So, you know, be cautious. Be cautious, shady owners.
And plenty of running backs. Jerick McKinnon, he said he expects to play. I'm with you on it, Dave. I think Asiata's the play there. I don't see McKinnon being effective even if he does play. I think he gets limited touches if he is there.
I think he's a PPR only play, possibly DFS. He's still gonna, if he's out there playing, Bradford's gonna dump the ball off to him 5 to 7 times. I still like Asiata more. I believe Asiata is a better back when McKinnon is on the field. They work to each other's strengths. I don't think they're gonna have a problem getting rid of AP and just rolling off this core unless they can draft or trade for someone better.
Well, running back problems. Minnesota's got nothing on Tampa Bay. They've got 4 running backs out. Anton Smith just went down Thursday night. They're down to Peyton Barber and anybody?
Yeah, it's someone that I can't quite think of off
Yeah.
the top of my head right now.
It's pretty sad there in Tampa. That's a backfield to avoid.
Oh, is it Mike James?
That could be.
I think it's Mike James.
That sounds
Absolutely,
correct.
yes. I think it's Mike James. That was with no Google, by the way.
And then we got some receivers. Amari Cooper, he's got a back problem.
I love Amari Cooper this week. The reason why I love Amari Cooper, if he's healthy, Talib is leaning towards not playing this week. Check for updates on our page. We will let you know. If Talib doesn't play, I have Amari Cooper top 5. I have him at my number 4. This guy's, honestly, you hate to say it, he's really hit or miss. He truly is. My favorite receiver there is Crabtree. But if you have Amari Cooper, even against Denver this week, he's a high-end wide receiver too. You're going to play him.
You have to. You have to. Derek Carr.
With or without Talib.
Right. And Derek Carr's just been tearing it up all season long. Top quarterback in fantasy. Not the top, but he's top.
That'd be Matt Ryan.
Right.
I benched him.
Yeah, sometimes you got to do that. Thursday night games will do that to a guy.
They scare me.
You know, speaking of Thursday night games, Mike Evans, concussion protocol. That's something to factor in possibly for next week. Randall Cobb. Game time decision. Those things scare me. I hate game time decisions, especially when you find out 3 minutes ahead of time.
Game time decisions normally don't affect me with most injuries, but when it's that hamstring injury, you're already weary about playing this guy. You're like, is he going to be out there for 10 snaps? Is he going to be out there for 35? We know what Aaron Rodgers can do when someone is on a limited basis. He can be 5 to 10 yards out and make sure he's the one getting the route. Why? He hasn't been out running the routes all day. So for what they need to use him for, they'll use it on a very limited amount of plays. I avoid Randall Cobb at all costs if you can. I love Devontae Adams and Ty Montgomery this week. Of course, we know who Jordy Nelson is. Are they going to play him in the slot, or are they going to play him in the normal position, lined up wide right? That'll be noted. Again, stay tuned with our page. We will update that as well.
Lots of free agent ads out there to cover some of these running backs. You know, Spencer Ware being out, Charkandrick West, if he's still there, he shouldn't be. You gotta go out and snag him.
I tried. Mark in our league, he's 2 waiver spots ahead of me. He actually acquired him. So I went out and traded him Spencer Ware. We actually had a pretty big deal come in. For the 3rd time, I do own Ezekiel Elliott. We'll see if I play him this week. I should against the Cleveland Browns. I am worried that Dak has a couple big gainers through the air. They run Lance Dunbar and Alfred Morris a little bit, knowing that they're going to win that game. Either way, you're starting your studs. Don't be worried. Zeke's going to be good for 2 touchdowns this week.
And somebody else you were talking about previously, Deion Lewis.
You know when I say I love a person, I correct myself every time and say I'm infatuated with this guy. He'll be back week 10. He stated that if they played this week that he was healthy enough to play, but they are on bye. He is going to be the running back to own there in PPR. But Garrett Blount will still be effective. He's going to get goal line work. If they're up in the game, they're going to workhorse him. So if they're ever up, which they should be, 20 touches for Blount, right? James White's going to become obsolete. I do suggest going and grabbing this guy. As of right now, you should still be able to IR him up until next week when that is the tag is taken away. But yes, go get Deion Lewis if you can.
We were talking about running backs. We touched on Peyton Barber earlier. There's a couple out there that are starting to steal some carries. You see Mark Ingram? He's starting to slide. Tim Hightower wouldn't be a bad idea to go pick him up if he's there.
Absolutely, and they said they wanted to get Tim Hightower more carries. Now, when we here at Double D's correctly predicted that Booker would be the man and that Rob Kelly would be the man, I get these incomes from watching them play, plus the coaching staff saying, hey, we need to get them the ball more. But is it because Ingram had the one fumble? I'm just wondering if there's not more going behind closed doors, because all year this year, he has been getting vultured. The one game against the Chargers, John Kuhn, 3 touchdowns. Ingram, not.
Kobe Fleener ran for a touchdown. How often does a tight end run for a touchdown? I mean, come on.
I just want to know if there's more going on there than meets the eye that we're actually being allowed to know about. I'm an Ingram owner in our 2QB league. I would like to know this. It worries me, but you're still playing him. I have him as a low-end running back, too, where he should be a high-end because you don't know where the carries are going.
You know, CJ Persisi, he's coming up in Seattle.
Oh, and I traded away Christine Michael and Rawls after I brought him in 1 week after. I watched Procise do his work on the field, and I think he is going to be 10 times what they had in CJ Spiller. He's got very good hands. I'll go through his stats when we go through the game. I like this guy. I think he's going to be the running back to own by week 14. Put it in the books.
Week 14. And now somebody you've been kind of harping on me for, being a DeMarco owner, trying to get me to get Derrick Henry off you. Derrick Henry, if he's somehow on your free agent wire, I do believe he was drafted in our league.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm pretty positive. You got to go get him. It's huge with DeMarco. He's shown to be injury prone. Is this toe injury serious? Is it not? Either way, I would imagine they're going to do something similar to what Miami wants to do with the Jai, and they're going to kind of ease back on his carries. Like you're worried about Zeke. Well, there's no point to have Zeke run the ball 26, 27, 28, 30 times when those last 5 carries come with a 2-touchdown lead.
Oh, absolutely. And
you know,
something why Henry was drafted in a lot of leagues, even ours, the fact that at the beginning of the year, we thought it was going to be more of a split carry backfield. I mean, you've got 2 running backs that can be workhorses. You can't ask for a better problem as a head coach. The one thing that I like about what they're doing in Tennessee from a fantasy perspective, they're not giving you a double-headed monster. Up until last week when he had the slight toe injury, they have workhorse DeMarco, and you got to love to see that when that's your RB1. The one thing that I do swear by, I'm a handcuff whore. I love to handcuff my running back. So if you don't have Henry in your league and you have DeMarco, go out there and try to trade for him. If you need some questions, answered, ask us. Ask us what you should do. Ask us what's an overpay. Ask us what the value of some players are. These are guys that you're going to want for the long haul. I'm a firm believer in this case that they're going to be splitting the carries all the way up until the bye week. And then after that, we'll see what happens after week 13.
I agree with you there, Dave. I mean, DeMarco, coming into this season, nobody knew what they were getting out of DeMarco. Are you getting a DeMarco that was running behind the best offensive line in the league in Dallas? Or are you getting a DeMarco that's in the Eagles?
Well, and here's, absolutely. The one thing that DeMarco's been put to the test to is he's only had one other season as a starting running back with this amount of work. You look, and in Dallas, he had that great line when he had this amount of work, too. In Philly, he didn't, so we really didn't know how much his body would be able to withstand this type of punishment. When you watch him play as a downhill running back, he tries to plow the other guy over, and trust me, he does it. He's a great running back. I hope the best for him. I want him to be healthy, especially for you, boss.
No doubt, man. Somebody else you got to think about, Corey Coleman's back. What's he going to do? Well, you know our stance on Kessler.
We don't play Kessler, and we don't drink Kessler.
So it's kind of scary there, but Terrell Pryor's putting up numbers. Corey Coleman, I think there's some potential there. I mean, you're not talking wide receiver 1. Low-end wide receiver 2.
Guaranteed flex play.
He's a great flex play.
I say it week in and week out. Give me the number 2 wide receiver 9 times out of 10 over the number 1 wide receiver. Corey Coleman, prime example. You wouldn't think of Terrell Pryor as being that Dez Bryant to where Cole Beasley becomes a huge factor in PPR and gets his numbers. But Terrell Pryor, he's a threat. You got to watch him on the field. That opens Corey Coleman up. They're going up against, I wouldn't call it a strong pass defense at all this week, would you? And he's someone that you can guaranteed flex. Low-end wide receiver, too, like you said, but guaranteed flex play. I've heard a lot of analysts say, I'm avoiding him this week. I want to watch and see what happens. Yeah, be the guy that watches and sees what happens and then lose by 6 points where that touchdown just came into play.
Or, take a trade and ponder it for 3 weeks and then think about it.
Yes, we've all been there, sir.
We have. All right, before we get into this week's games, Mr. Kane, you're a Bears fan, correct? Correct, Tom. What did you think of Mr. Cutler's return and the upset in Minnesota?
Okay, it's a fluke, first of all. The Bears are 32nd in points per game, 16.4. The Vikings are first in points allowed. So it doesn't match up. I think it's just Cutler trying to prove a point. He's coming back. He's trying to win his job back. He's historically good against the Vikings, and I think he just tried to come out and prove that he should be starting, but I think that'll waste away next week.
Do you think that he changed the image of Alshon Jeffrey in that 1 week? I mean, Alshon seemed very obsolete the 3 weeks until he came back, and he looked pretty good. Do you think that was Cutler, or do you think it was just knowing Minnesota, playing at home, and throwing for it all, whether it worked or not?
That's Cutler. He tries to target deeper, taller receivers, and Alshon's just that type of guy. He's a taller, stronger. He's going to make those catches. He tries to target him deep more.
Do you think Cameron Meredith will gain from this value? I like him. How do you feel about Cameron Meredith?
I think Cameron Meredith, he's a decent receiver. He's going to get a decent amount of points. I don't think he's a great receiver, as in he's not going to put up great points every week, but he's a decent start in fantasy.
I had this debate with your dad. I was like, and he said if he was a better blocker, I was like, he's a beast. Why not tight end? I know you got Zach Miller, but Cameron Meredith and a Vernon Davis type. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he can go catch the balls. I mean,
well, Cameron Meredith, we'll put it this way, he's better than Eddie Royal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Zach Miller, is Zach Miller going to lose value with Cutler starting over Hoyer? Hoyer seemed to like Zach Miller more than Cutler does.
Yes, he did.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good insight there, Ken.
Yes, thank you, bud. All right, well, we got Dallas and Cleveland this week. Cleveland, are they going to win a game this year? Kessler's supposed to be starting, correct?
Yeah, Kessler's starting. Absolutely, yeah. Kessler's starting. Last week, McCown was 25 for 49, 341 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He also added 3 rushes for 10 yards. The run game, it was very obsolete. I mean, Crowell, 11 rushes, 29 yards, 1 TD, 2 receptions for 34 yards. Duke Johnson, 4 rushes, 29 yards, 6 receptions for 87 yards, though. Here's the thing. I laugh at the Browns every week. I have it a blowout score. This week, I am completely different on it. I have Dallas winning the game, 31-24. Very close game. Dak, I'm not overly impressed what he's doing. I don't want to call him a system quarterback. I think they got the right type of staff around him, offensively and defensively, where he's not on the field too much. He was 19 for 39, 287 yards, 2 TDs and 1 interception, 7 rushes, 38 yards and 1 TD, which was a bootleg, which definitely vultured Zeke, though, 22 rushes, 96 yards, 4 receptions, 52 yards. He had no touchdowns. Don't worry about that this week, fantasy owners. Again, he will get 2 touchdowns.
I agree with you. Zeke, he's running behind the best offensive line in football. And I love me some Dak. I do. I agree with you. At this point, I still feel Tony Romo is a better passer than Dak. But they're winning. They're winning the way they are. You have to start Dak. He's not coming out. Dez is back. That gives him another threat downfield versus, Cole Beasley. You're not the answer. Good PPR flex play occasionally if you got nobody else. But
I don't want to take anything away from Dak. But the Philadelphia Eagles won that game for 3 out of the 4 quarters. I predicted that Philadelphia would win that game. The only thing I wanted to see is Philly show up on the road. And they did. Now, they gave up a 10-point lead going into the 4th quarter. But you look at the numbers that they gave up to Dak, and it's not like he threw all over him. It's not like Zeke ran all over him. It took everything, including overtime, to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm excited about this division. I'm excited about this more than I have been since the 90s with Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin.
I agree. That division, the NFC East, you got a lot of competitive teams. Washington's seeming coming around a little bit. Philly's there, one of the top defenses in the league. Dallas, they got this offensive line, and this guy named Zeke. And, I got him 34-17. I know it's in Cleveland, but they don't have enough. Not with Kessler, not with Coleman coming back, Terrell Pryor. You know what? If you got to flex him, you got to flex him. He's not a horrible flex play. Barnage, he gets his numbers.
I like him for garbage time.
I do too.
6 receptions, 101 yards. 3 receptions, 42 yards. Those were Pryor's numbers that I just spoke of earlier.
Oh, speaking of garbage time, we got Jaguars and Chiefs.
Hashmark Katie Nolan. We respect your work. Garbage time.
Fox. Blake Bortles. The guy's definitely not a franchise quarterback from what he's shown so far. And at times, he doesn't even look like an NFL quarterback. But in garbage time, the man owns it. He makes all his money in garbage time. I got Chiefs 23, Jaguars 10. The Chiefs defense is starting to come around. They're going to struggle a little bit on offense. Not as much as people think. Foles might even be a better fit for Reed's offense. He's got a better deep ball than Alex Smith. Charkandrick West has already proved himself last year that he can be workhorse occasionally. I don't know if he can do it a full year, but he had multiple games last year where he was effective.
Are the Chiefs 5-2 now?
I do believe so, yes.
All right, yeah, and that's I realized last week, I do believe if that's the record, that they were 4-2, and it was kind of an eye opener to me. Someone that I really like in this game, and I brought up last week, we talked about diva players. Jeremy Macklin, diva player. I like Tyreek Hill again. Scored a touchdown again last week. 5 receptions, 98 yards, and a TD. I like him to do the same exact thing again this week, but add another touchdown. That's 2 touchdowns for Tyreek Hill. This game, I have it 27-17 Jaguars. I don't know. It's so hard with 6 teams on bye. I made Yeldon in my top 30. I mean, it's just, it was impossible for me to look at and find out who needs to be placed where. I firmly believe now that Allen Hurns is the wide receiver to be owned here. Why? Because they don't score until garbage time, and Allen Robinson still cannot find the end zone. He scares me. A fun fact here, Blake Bortles was the leading rusher for his team in this game with 4 rushes and 22 yards.
When he can find the end zone and when he catches the ball in the end zone, Allen Robinson, he's got some drops. Jets-Dolphins. Well, Ajay, back-to-back 200-yard games, coming off a bye week. Gase is talking about cutting back his carries a little bit because they don't want to ride him to death. Makes sense. Well, the Jets, their starting center's out, but Fitz has shown a recovery. He's got 1 pick in the last 4 games. Their run D's tied for first in yards per attempt, but they're 31st in pass defense. Brandon Marshall, well, Dave, I know you sold him, and that's for a reason. Their defense, 8 sacks in 7 weeks. That's not going to cover up an ineffective secondary. I have Dolphins 27, Jets 17. Ajay's not going for 200 again. He'll be lucky to hit 100 because Tannehill's going to get a couple touchdowns. He's got multiple touchdowns in both their meetings last year. The Jets' pass D stinks. I think Tannehill has a game finally.
The one thing the Jets got going for them is they had Antonio Cromartie for quite some time there. He'll be a faithful. And the dude's got like 10 kids. So they know the future is only going to be looking brighter for them. Again, we've reiterated that I like the number 2 receiver over the number 1, Quincy Enunwa. 4 receptions, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Marshall, 4 receptions, 68 yards, no touchdown. This is a prime example of why I want the number 2 wide receiver, especially in PPR. They have the worst defender on them. 3 years back, maybe even less, we're saying Brandon Marshall, though, he can still beat his guy. He can still do it now. Don't get me wrong. But quarterback play, I want Quincy Enunwa. I want the young guy there. I have this game, Jets 21, Dolphins 24.
Fair enough, sir. We got Lions, Vikings.
Tigers and Bears.
Oh, my. Oh, my. I think the Vikings, they dropped 2 after the bye week. Starting to wonder if they're for real. Their offensive coordinator, well, he decided to resign. But when you're averaging 2.66 yards per carry, running the ball, the worst since the 1953 Giants, I guess I don't blame the guy. The Lions D, though, they've given up 8 touchdowns to tight ends in the last 8 games. I like Kyle Rudolph this week. I think the Vikings pull it out. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think 17-13. I just don't see the Lions offense being able to do it. The Vikings have only had 2 wide receivers all year that have gotten more than 65 yards on them.
Who's your favorite player in this game, Daryl?
My favorite player in this game? I'd have to go with Theo Riddick or Golden Tate.
Where's my finger?
Not Golden Tate, excuse me. Kyle Rudolph.
My finger is right on Theo Riddick. Last week, Theo Riddick back and healthy. 11 rushes, 56 yards, 8 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown. This man right here, he only has 1 game the rest of the season that's not in a dome, and I believe it's week 15 against the Giants. Don't quote me there, but go see when they play the Giants. Ebron back healthy, 7 receptions, 79 yards. It's hard to get points from the tight end spot. Not a bad pickup. There's someone that you need out of free agency, and he's out there. He's not a bad one as well. We already touched on as the Asiata situation. We didn't talk about the wide receivers here from Minnesota. Diggs got his touchdown last week in complete garbage time. The receiver I still wanted up until that point, and I want Bradford to target him more. Adam Thielen, 3 receptions on 40 yards. This man's got great hands. Just need to find him in motion. He's the big play receiver. I like him a lot there. I have this score, Vikings 26, Lions 24. I cannot lose because someone's gaining a game on the Packers.
No, we can't have that. We don't like any cheese here. Did you have something on the Lions-Vikings game at all, Kane?
Yes, I have a weird fact. Sam Bradford's passer rating against the blitz has dropped to 54.5 in the last 2 weeks. And the Lions are fifth in the highest blitz percentage with 33.7%. So Sam Bradford may or may not have a bad game.
I hate to say it, I have the Lions D in my top 10.
Well, and if you look at the games, the Lions have played in some higher scoring games. Even last week, it was a 7-point spread, and I think they only put 13 up, I believe.
Sounds right.
I'm not completely adequate on that notion, but they have a tougher defense than people give them credit for. Again, they're going to let passes over the middle, so I do like Kyle Rudolph a lot this week.
I think Kyle Rudolph's going to be a big play for him.
I have a little food for thought for you this week if we're going to move on here.
I'm hungry, Dave. What you got?
I did touch earlier on the Blake Bortles leading his team in rushing from the quarterback spot.
Okay.
There were two other quarterbacks this week that led their team in rushing. Can you name the two quarterbacks that led their team in rushing last week?
Andrew Luck. One.
That is one.
Man.
Andrew Luck had himself
He had
9 rushes for 60 yards.
He had 60-something. Oh, man, that's real tough.
I'm sending it to you with my psychological power.
Tannehill?
No, sir. It was Aaron Rodgers.
Oh,
He had 6 rushes for 60 yards.
Correct. It's not often you have quarterbacks lead your team in rushing. That's not a good sign.
In 1 week, and one of them wasn't Cam Newton.
Right. Now, we're getting to Dave's territory here. We got Steelers versus Ravens. 7 of their last 9 games have been decided by 3 points or less. I'm going to kind of stay with that this week. Since 2014, Ben Roethlisberger, whether he's healthy or not, his home road splits they're completely different. It's unbelievable. I always talk about Breeze kind of turning his shit on the road. Berger's got 18 touchdowns, 18 interceptions away, 51 touchdowns, 13 interceptions at home. I got Steelers 24, Ravens 20. It's going to be more than 3. Flacco, there's got to be a better option than Flacco. He's only been in the top 15 quarterbacks 1 of 7 weeks so far this year. AB, I have him ranked in the top 3 just on potential. Is Berger rusty or not? Le'Veon's going to get his. AB, it's not just Berger. Last year against the Ravens, AB had 5 catches for 42 yards in one game, no touchdowns, 7 catches for 61 yards, and no touchdowns. The Ravens play the Steelers tough. It's one of those divisional games. It's like Packers-Bears. They play them tougher than what they normally are.
The Ravens have had a powerhouse defense since I was born. I do have AB number 1 this week, although in the last 13 times that he has played the Baltimore Ravens, he has only had 1 touchdown. I have Le'Veon Bell number 2 this week behind Zeke Elliott. I have the upside of him to touch the ball total of 30 times. If you're a fan of our Facebook page, if you listen to our podcast, then you know I'm about to get loud, baby! Woo! We got Ben Roethlisberger back under center, and you know what that means. We're going out and getting us a W. We're going to take back the division, and we're going to take the world by storm. I got the most grief as soon as Big Ben went down. Oh, AB's not going to get his numbers. Oh, Le'Veon's not going to get his numbers. Thank you, Landry. You went out there and you proved them wrong. Yeah, Hayward, they found the end zone, but that doesn't matter. In our league, AB ended up with just under 20 points. Le'Veon went above and beyond what he was supposed to do. So don't worry, Steeler Nation. We're still here. We're still loud, and we're still proud. I agree with you. It will be a 3-point game. It usually is a 3-point game. I had the Steelers winning 17-14.
Fair enough there, man. We're pretty close once again. We're normally pretty confident.
Ladarius Green
Yes.
should be back next week. He was cleared to play this week, but during practices, he said he's not up to speed. He's got to get back into game shape. Look out for that. Jesse James has been all right when Big Ben's been under quarterback, when he's played quarterback, but Ladarius Green is a whole other can of worms. We get Ladarius Green, and we're looking at a slight downgrade from Heath Miller.
I agree with you there. Ladarius Green, Jesse James had a couple good weeks, basically because of the offense. When everybody's worried about AB taking the top off your defense, guess what? That middle's going to be open. Jesse James, he was able to get some numbers there. Ladarius Green, huge upgrade over Jesse James.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got Giants-Eagles. man, what can we say about this team? Carson Wentz started out pretty hot this year. 5 fumbles, 3 picks the last 4 weeks. Is it all on him? I don't know. He's got one of the worst receiving cores in the league. He does have a Darren Sproles. That is huge for him. I have Eagles 28, Giants 14. Why? The Giants have one of the worst offenses in the league. They're averaging 19 points a game, and they haven't beaten a team with a winning record since week 1.
I was in Vegas April 3rd. I remember myself putting
I do
$100 on the Giants to win the Super Bowl. I also recall myself losing $250 in sports bet tickets on the championship game, North Carolina and Villanova. Good thing we found those. We lost anyways. Last week, I reiterated it again. I've said it all season long. I want Sproles over Ryan Matthews. Sproles, 15 rushes for 86 yards. He did have a fumble. It was recovered by the Eagles, so I look at that as a dry wash. 5 receptions, 17 yards, no touchdowns. Matthews, a pitiful 4 rushing attempts, 10 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 reception. It blows my mind how they utilize Ryan Matthews so little, and he still ends up getting a touchdown. I still want Darren Sproles, week in and week out. Jordan Matthews, 11 receptions, 65 yards, and a touchdown. If you look at what Carson Wentz did last week, he was 32 of 43, 202 yards, and 1 touchdown. Those aren't horrible numbers. He's safe with the ball. He put his team in a position to win. Am I going to put it on the defense? Absolutely not. I think the Dallas Cowboys just found a way to win. I have this score, Eagles 24, Giants 21.
I agree with you there, Dave. Carson Wentz, it's not all on him. But with all his completions and all his attempts he had last week, he only attempted 1 pass more than 15 yards. Once again, I think that's a lot on the receivers. They're not able to get open deep.
I can name 2 other quarterbacks that are probably 1-2 on everyone's radar, especially in Wisconsin, that do the same thing, and that's Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. They're both throwers that don't throw the ball far down the field. When you see Tom Brady throw the ball far down the field, this year it's been to Chris Hogan, new guy that he just deep threats to, or Gronk when he beat someone on a seam route. I said it 5 minutes before it happened while we watched the game last week. I'm like, all it takes. They'll run the same play over and over again. Gronk just runs straight up the field until you beat your guy. He's good for 4 to 5 catches a game, 15 to 30 points.
Wow. Gronk, well, he's in a league of his own as far as a person goes. Not even a football player. Gronk's he's out there. Listen to the guy talk.
Is that like no crying in baseball, or like life is like a box of chocolates?
I think there's only crying in baseball if somebody steals your box of chocolates.
I would cry in baseball if I seen my old lady looking at Gronk while I was up to bat. Like, I just lost her, because Gronk is pretty phenomenal.
Especially with the box of chocolates. You got something. Giants-Eagles, Kane, what are your thoughts here?
Well, the Giants, they've allowed 108 yards per game out of the slot, and Jordan Matthews is going to be playing in the slot, so he may have a good game. I see him having a decent game because he's a decent receiver. I don't see him having a great game, but look for him to have a decent game.
High-end wide receiver, too, there?
I agree, especially PPR. He's going to get some targets, get some receptions out of the slot. Good call there.
Oh, Giants, go get Tom Coughlin back.
And rediscover the old Eli. The Eli you have now, well, he made Sterling Shepard irrelevant.
Someone throw another Mack truck at his face. Maybe he'll be okay.
No doubt. Speaking of irrelevant, we got Panthers-Rams. Irrelevant, is Todd Gurley ever going to return to what he was last year? He's yet to rush for 100 yards this year. He's averaging 3 yards per carry. But is it all on him? I don't know. He doesn't have a great offensive line. There's no passing game for defenses to be worried about. The Panthers, are they back? Are they going to try and turn around after putting kind of a whooping on the cards? I don't know. Cam, he seems kind of gun-shy to run the ball. He's not vulturing Jonathan Stewart right now. I think he's worried about getting hit. Greg Olsen, he's my number 1 tight end this week with Gronk out and Reed out.
I love to hear that, Daryl. I just traded Gronk in a combo deal to bring Greg Olsen back on this bye week, so I'm glad to hear that.
Another one that's irrelevant. Kelvin Benjamin. A lot of people were kind of high. He's disappeared, but Cam, after the first 2 weeks, Cam hasn't been the same Cam. I got Panthers 28, Rams 10. I think they shut down Gurley. There's no other real threat on that offense.
KB in PPR he's diminished. You know, he used to go get you 8-9 catches a game before the injury. 2 receptions for 73 yards last week. Now, you need a wide receiver 2 in a standard league. I'll take those numbers. You're putting up almost 100 yards in 2 catches. That's phenomenal. I have no problem with that. We look at Greg Olsen. He only had 1 reception for 11 yards last week. Look for those numbers to go up tenfold. This man will have a big week. Cam was 14 for 27, 212 yards, no touchdowns, 7 rushes, 43 yards, no touchdowns. I agree with you that he doesn't want to put his, I don't want to say career season in jeopardy. You know, one more good hit and he could be out for the rest of the season, let alone career in the concussion protocol. I mean,
you don't want to become like a Wes Welker or even, I hate to say it, Jordan Reed. You start getting concussions. Mm-hmm. How many of those concussions go unnoticed? And they happen easier and easier the more and more often you have them. I think he's worried about it. He's a big dude. He can shrug off a lot of stuff, but when you run like a running back, Cam, you got to learn to run out of bounds or slide.
Yeah, and that's one thing that Le'Veon did this year, and he worked on it in the preseason, was to help himself avoid injury instead of keeping that contact going. Even when you're by the sideline, just go out of bounds. Just step out, player safety. And I normally have a bad feeling about Le'Veon at this point in the year. I feel great about him. Knock on some wood.
He's playing smarter.
He looks amazing. They're not overworking him. They're using him the right amount. And wait till it gets closer to the postseason. D'Angelo Williams will be used more to rest up. I have this game 21 Panthers, 17 Rams.
Now, Kane, I was saying something about the passing game of the Rams not scaring anybody. Yeah. I think you might beg to differ on that one a little bit.
Well, Brian Quick, he's being targeted at an average of 14.6 yards per target. So he's being targeted a little deeper, but he's just, the quarterback situation there isn't the greatest, and he has a 70% catch rate when he has less than a yard of separation.
That's fairly impressive. That's almost like throw the ball up the edge and go get it with no separation, less than a yard.
Yeah, that speed is amazing that he exemplifies on the field. I agree with you.
You're telling me you're not starting Case Keenum this week?
Well, we were talking a little bit earlier about the wide receivers of the Eagles just being god-awful. Yeah. Put Jordan Matthews on that team and see Todd Gurley just flourish.
I agree.
A true number 1, whether it's fantasy or not, where we're saying he's a wide receiver 2 this week guaranteed, it's still a true number 1 wide receiver.
He's the number 1
it's
there.
Not Dorial Green Beckham. I mean, nothing taken away from Tavon Austin, but give him a solid number 1 and make him a number 2. And 9 times out of 10, he's going to be better than Kenny Britt then. Or Quick. Excuse me.
No doubt. Better than Nelson Aguilar.
Ooh, I'm liking that Nelson out of the Cardinals lately, though. Last couple weeks, he's kind of been the man.
I agree. If Carson Palmer didn't just get old quick.
Go get Kurt Warner.
Kurt Warner. I hear Brett Favre might come back.
He's too busy sending pics.
Him and Draymond both. We got Saints-Niners. Wow.
Talk about culture shock.
Yeah. Niners, well, they're averaging giving up 36.5 points over their last 6 games. They shut out the Rams in the opener and then lost 6 straight. 5 of them by 12 points or more. Breeze has multiple touchdowns in 6 of his last 7. I know he struggles a little bit on the road. He ain't going to struggle against this Niners D. They've completely fallen apart. About as much as Mark Ingram's starting to fall in the running back rankings. Brandon Cooks, he's going to get his. Michael Thomas, he's starting to overtake Snead. Pretty much already has as Breeze's second favorite option. Breeze, he's a beast quarterback. With Carlos Hyde out, the 49ers, I don't feel they have any offensive weapons. Neither Cap nor Blaine Gabbert are the answer. Saints 38, 49ers 13.
Wow, that's insanely close to my score. Something that just kind of caught me off guard here. Drew Brees, 1 rush, 1 yard. Ingram, 3 rushes, 5 yards. Wow. Brees was 27 for 35, 265 yards with 1 TD. Amazing? I think not. Cooks did continue his streak of 3 weeks straight with a touchdown, looking to make it 4 this week. He had 4 receptions for 44 yards and a TD last week. Thomas was 6 receptions for 63 yards. Snead, 6 receptions for 56 yards. So take your pick there. Whoever's open, I'm going to throw it to, says Mr. Breezy. Makes it look easy. Actually, 9 players last week had catches for Drew Brees, which is an outstanding number. He spreads that ball around. Yeah, I mean, he's the quarterback you want in fantasy. Whether he's number 1 by statistical rating or not, you feel comfortable starting him week in and week out on the road or at home.
Week in, week out, he's almost a top 5 play every week. I mean, at quarterback, I don't see how you can't.
One thing we didn't touch on, I'm not even infatuated with him, but I do like Torrey Smith as a flyer. Kaepernick has actually made him look semi-relevant. I know it was one big TD grab 2 weeks ago, and I'm just kind of interested to see what happens here because the Saints defense isn't very good, and if they're going to beat them, it's going to have to be through the air. I do think Colin Kaepernick has over 75 yards rushing this week and 2 total touchdowns. I think he will be the only person to score for the 49ers, both times with his feet like an old school Mike Vick. This score will be Saints 38, 49ers 14.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. I wouldn't be surprised to see Cap be another quarterback that leads his team in rushing.
It was weird too. We're going through those teams and it's like, Cap, Cam, and it wasn't them.
Can I kind of list Cap in my top 25 running backs this week? I mean,
honestly, and I've thought about that. I'm like, where can I put Ty Montgomery in my running back?
Right, I thought about that this week. I really did. And Cap, he might even qualify this week. Now, getting to our moment of truth here. I know Dave's the Steelers fan. I'm the Dolphins fan. Kind of covered that. We both don't like the Packers. We got Colts versus Packers in Green Bay. The Colts, God, I feel sorry for Andrew Luck. He's been sacked 31 times this year. Last week, 6 sacks, 12 hits against Kansas City. He's going up against a weak Packers pass defense. But you know what? A-Rod, he's kind of turned around. He's got 7 touchdowns, 0 picks in the last 2 games. He leads the NFC in red zone attempts. He's got 48 of them, 28 of them inside the 10. Cobb's game time decision. You know what? To A-Rod, it don't matter. He's still got Ty Montgomery. He's still got Devontae Adams, and he's still got Jordy to decoy for everybody else. Because I do believe that's what Jordy has become so far this year. I don't know if he's 100% healthy or if this is the new Jordy and that's the best you're getting out of him. Either way, Moncrief's back. Is T.Y. going to be limited? T.Y.'s always got those nagging little injuries. He's still going to play, in my opinion. I got Packers 34, Colts 27, just because the Colts can't stop A-Rod at home.
Last week, Andrew Luck, 19 for 35, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. The kicker here is he had 9 rushes for 60 yards. Frank Gore, 9 rushes, 37 yards, 2 receptions, 25 yards, and a TD. There's no planet that we should live on where your quarterback rushes as many times as your running back, and your quarterback's name is Andrew Luck. I don't like that. The Colts need to work on that. That definitely, I don't think it was game planning as much as it was game flow, and Luck, to me, has the worst offensive line in the league. I feel bad for that man. He got paid to take those hits, though. He could have went elsewhere. Aaron Rodgers last week, 28 for 38, 246 yards and 4 TDs, 6 rushes, 60 yards. Ripkowski was the running back man last week, 6 rushes, 34 yards. Jackson, 4 rushes, 10 yards. They cut Niles Davis. He actually went to the Jets, and he was cut again hours after he was signed. Ha, Mark. Told you to take Rob Kelly. Jordy Nelson, 4 receptions, 94 yards and a TD. Devontae Adams, 12 receptions for 74 yards. Janis, 4 receptions, 30 yards and a TD. I have Packers 28, Colts 20. This will be a very good game to watch. Again, I like Moncrief over T.Y. Hilton. Yep. He had 4 receptions for 41 yards and a TD. We talked Doyle up a couple weeks ago. The tight end spot is the sketchiest spot in all of fantasy football. Don't give up on him yet. He has a quarterback that likes to throw. He's not going to run 9 times a week. Stick in there on him. He's going to do good things for you. T.Y. Hilton, he needs to do work. Just like Greg Olsen had a bad week last week. Hilton, 1 reception, 20 yards. Look for him to turn it around.
I wouldn't be surprised there, Dave. I do like Dante Moncrief coming back this week as well. We got Titans-Chargers. I got Chargers 24, Titans 17. Regardless of DeMarco's toe, healthy or not, it's not going to be enough. The Chargers have kind of turned it around a little bit. Maybe Phillip Rivers is avoiding his second half slide. Joey Bosa, 4 sacks in 4 games. They've beaten Atlanta. They've beaten Denver. Gates is back as a red zone target. Melvin Gordon's a consistent top 10 running back. I just don't see him losing this, regardless of the Titans converting 50% of their third downs.
I'm infatuated with Melvin Gordon. Kenny, I'm coming for him. It ain't over yet, baby. 23 rushes, 111 yards, no touchdowns, 4 receptions, 44 yards. Give me those numbers any week coming out of my RB1. Murray last week, 21 rushes, 123 yards, and a TD, 1 reception, 5 yards. Henry, 16 rushes, 60 yards, 1 TD, 4 reception, 37 yards. Again, go get Henry if you're a DeMarco owner. If you don't know what overpaying is, contact us. We will help you. We will not lie to you, and we will push you in the right direction. I have this game Titans 23, Chargers 20. Oh, one more thing on that. I do apologize. I like Dontrell Inman this week to be the wide receiver. Benjamin was questionable, as well as Tyrell Williams. 4 receptions for 72 yards last week for Inman.
Okay, we got Sunday night, Denver, Oakland. It's kind of like two worlds colliding here. Denver's tied for the league with 26 sacks. Oakland, they're giving up a league-low 2.7% sack rate on their passes. Khalil Mack, I think he's back. Last year he had 5 sacks in the last meeting of these two teams. He had 2 sacks last week. I know it was against Tampa Bay. Oakland, 5-0 on the road, 1-2 at home. Completely oddie numbers. It doesn't make any sense. I'm taking Oakland at home, 28-17. I think with Talib out, they're going to be able to exploit that pass defense. And, well, Derek Carr is going to throw the shit out of the ball. You got the 3 C's, Carr, Crabtree, Cooper. You want to start all of them. Cooper's got the most yards after catch of any wide receiver with 293. Latavius, he might just be an afterthought in this game. Oakland 28, Denver 17.
I'm not completely certain that Talib is out. If he is, I might change the score of this game. I do have Denver winning a very close game because it is in Oakland, 28-27. I don't have to go over this every week, but I will tell you, Booker is the man. You need to go get him if you don't have him. He's worth trade offering for right now while his value is still at the right spot. If he has another big game this week, look out. You're not going to get that in the future. We already went over all the wide receivers except one that I would like to talk about. I don't need to talk about DT or Sanders. Seth Roberts, great standard play, even better DFS flyer play. He went a little obsolete for a week or two. But for like 4 weeks straight, this guy just found the end zone, and he found it again last week. 3 receptions, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. Look for him to be a big factor against Denver's secondary.
Very good thought. See, I based this score off of, I'm assuming Talib's not going to
Absolutely,
play.
and you know,
I'm just going to put it that way, and if it changes, then I gotta make adjustments.
Look at our Facebook page. We'll stay up to date as much as we can, everyone. We are sorry we are not paid suits.
Now, speaking of leading the league in sacks, they're tied with Buffalo. Buffalo's playing Seattle Monday night. LaShawn, Rex says he's going to play. I just don't trust LaShawn with a hamstring injury. He's prone to having them. Seattle's offensive line, it's got some big problems. With Buffalo being tied for the league in sacks, they're going to be getting after Russell Wilson. Only 2 of 8 quarterbacks have finished in the top 10 against Buffalo for fantasy purposes. Seattle's offense is going to struggle. I think their defense is going to be enough to win this game. I have it 13 Seattle, Buffalo 10. Rex, I'm betting against you again, buddy.
Yeah, I'm betting against you too, Rex. Please don't kill me for doing it. There's something we didn't touch on in the injury report. I don't believe Jimmy Graham is questionable. There's someone that I like on their team, and Luke Wilson, if he doesn't play. Charles Clay should be out near free agency if you really have a worry come Monday night. Last week, I think I made one of my Belichick or Buffs, Reggie Bush.
Yes.
-2 rushing yards. Or 2 rushes, -8 yards. Sorry about that. 2 receptions, 34 yards. But that's because Jonathan Williams, whoever he is, had 5 rushes for 12 yards and a touchdown. Tyrod Taylor, again, one of the guys that didn't lead his team in rushing that you would think, hey, he could have been a quarterback that did it, right? 19 for 38, 183 yards, no touchdowns, 5 rushes for 48 yards, and a TD. I mean, he finds a way to get it done. We touched on Pro Sites, 4 rushes for 23 yards. those don't sound great, right? He was the number 2 running back last week. So let's remember, that's your third down back and your passing back. 4 receptions for 80 yards. Go pick this guy up. I like Seattle 24-14. After I seen what they did, minus the kicking game against the Arizona Cardinals, I have a lot of faith in them to go out there and do their work. I do have a question for you, though, Daryl. I'm kind of in a quandrum here because I did go trade for Denver and Seattle. Yes, I've also traded for a kicker this year, people. I will trade for anyone.
Well, Vinatieri is an exception. He's
Who
not
do
just
you
a
start?
kicker. He's the kicker.
Do
Seattle,
you start
Denver.
Denver against Oakland, or do you start Seattle against Buffalo? I feel yeah. Go ahead. I'm asking you.
I'm counting on Talib not playing. In Oakland against Derek Carr. I mean, dude, he's kind of a legit MVP candidate the way he's playing. I mean, I never thought I'd be saying that this early in his career, let alone ever. I'd have to start Seattle's D, especially with LaShawn being banged up. I mean, their offense isn't going to do it. Russell's gone 3 games without a touchdown pass. Their defense is going to have to carry it.
Absolutely. Do you agree if Shady plays, then Seattle's even shakier than 2? I mean, healthy Shady.
If
100%.
Shady's 100% healthy and there's no lingering hamstring thing, then it's more of a toss-up. Then it's going to come down to, if Shady's 100% healthy, is Talib playing or not? And if he is playing, how effective is he going to be? I mean, Oakland's 1-2 at home this year. You got to kind of hope that carries through if you own Denver.
The MVP notion of Derek Carr, and I mentioned earlier that Drew Brees threw to 9 different players. Derek Carr threw to 10 different players.
Wow. It gets even better.
Yeah. Sorry I didn't touch on that before in the last game, but yes,
perfect time
absolutely.
for it.
I mean, that was
perfect time.
I think we're to Belichick or bust, huh, bud?
Belichick or bust?
I'm going to have you go first because I actually have not chosen mine yet.
Wow. One of them is a guy I own that I just pulled off IR, and I'm actually flexing him this week. Corey Coleman. I think he's got potential. He's at home, even though, I don't like to drink Kessler and I don't want to start Kessler. That's who he's got to deal with. If Terrell Pryor can do it, Corey Coleman can do it. I really feel that. Other than that, I was undecided on a second one. I was kind of struggling with it. So I'm going to settle on Nick Foles. I really am. I mean, I think the guy, he's not a horrible quarterback. He went to the Pro Bowl. Didn't he play like 10 games for the Eagles and had 2 picks in 10 games? Something like that. I mean, the guy, he's got to have some sort of ability. He didn't just get traded to the Rams and turn into complete garbage. Or does Jeff Fisher and the Rams kind of do that to quarterbacks? So I got to go with Corey Coleman. I got to go with Nick Foles. I think they both have the potential to have a decent game. I don't think either one of them is going to be a stud. But for someone out of nowhere, that's who I'd have to go with.
I think I'm going to go with the man that I said would have 2 touchdown receptions this week, and Tyreek Hill, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. I do like the matchup against the Jaguars, and he's been doing some work, but he's still known as the number 2 wide receiver there. You can call it a boomer bust or not. And I'm going to give you one that everyone has in their top 3 on their list. You may not call it a boomer bust. I did touch earlier and say that he's only scored 1 time in 13 games. Antonio Brown. Put it in the books. He will have a blowout game this week. No one will be surprised within reason because it's Antonio Brown, right? But numbers never lie, and they say that he shouldn't. So I am going to go out there, stick myself on that very long cherry tree limb, and say Antonio Brown as my second, Belichick or bust.
Anyone can be a Belichick or bust. It comes down to matchups. I do believe, didn't I roll with Drew Brees one week on the road?
Yeah, no, and
on a bad matchup?
Right, absolutely.
Wow. What do you think? Are we going to...
I don't know. We can dabble in a couple. We're just going to dabble in a couple minutes of basketball. I mean, if you're not a huge fan, feel free to turn off the podcast right now. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you following. All friends and family, faithful 920 podcast listeners. But we are starting our basketball season. We're in week 2, and we just want to touch on a couple players here. Kane, do you have anything to say about B-ball, bud?
A little bit. I have a little bit to say about Kevin Durant.
All right, let's hear about it. I love rants.
I'm not very happy about his decision to leave OKC, a championship contending team with him on it. And when he leaves it, they just turn into Russell Westbrook and some others.
Good call. Good call on some others, man.
And then he
Kyle
goes
Singler, Duke.
he goes to already a championship contending team, if not the best team in the NBA, and he's tearing it up right now. He's great in fantasy. He does everything.
Well, I still think he's a bitch. I'm going to put it bluntly. You went from a team, you were up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. You blow a 3-1 lead. Now, I get they didn't have home court, but still, one of those last 3 games were at home.
You know why I know what Kevin Durant's favorite childhood game was? Hide and go seek. 'Cause he was exposed in the Western Conference Finals. Up 3-1, he didn't know whether to be aggressive or passive. So what does he do? I'm going to go to the Warriors and blend in with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and
All I
Draymond
have to
because they
do
don't
is
have
get
to
open and shoot threes. I don't have to worry about taking a load on my shoulders and carrying a team.
No, they're not going to focus on me. They can't because now Steph's open. Now Clay's open. It's one-on-one for KD all day,
Yep.
if that. I think he's a complete punk. I've expressed myself on Twitter, #Superstar2109. Follow me. I am very loud. I just went through a couple guards this week, just kind of rushed through a little bit just to give us a little bit to talk about, kind of get a feel in a top 10 league or a 10-person, 10-team league, what your top 5 to 6 picks should look like. Right now, Westbrook's at number 2 overall. K Sugar, which is Kawhi Leonard, for those of you out there that don't know, he's number 4 overall. Something of the sort. Harden is number 6. The Freak is number 9, which kind of stands out to me is the right spot where he was picked. I believe he was drafted 8 stars.
That's
I
about
have
right.
him number 3 overall. Personally, he has 10 blocks already. He only has 1 double-double. He has 44 rebounds, 3 3-pointers made. That is a huge number
It's
if
a
you
step
don't
for him.
know who the Freak is and what he normally brings to the table. Something that stood out to me, Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard have scored the same exact amount of points as each other. It's going to be a great year going forward. Right now, the MVP leader to me is Damian Lillard. He has been having a phenomenal year. 34 rebounds from the point guard spot is phenomenal. He's shooting 52% from the field. He's shooting 87% from the free throw line, and he's leading the league with 205 total points. James Harden has 183, and for those of you who know James Harden, the man shoots the ball. James Harden, to his, giving him some props, he does have 3 double-doubles. I like what he's doing with his assists, and his assists have been hitting anywhere from 15 plus.
With 17 one night, didn't he?
Absolutely, yes. He's someone that can go out there and do some work. And here's someone that I didn't mention yet that has just flown below the radar to most people. You draft him, he's going in the first round, but we don't talk about him. Chris Paul. He's shooting 43% from the field. Keep in mind, he's only made 30 field goals. I believe he's taken 68 total. 89% from the free throw line. He's made 3 9-pointers. He's 102 points. 28 rebounds, 42 assists, 19 steals. That's a guy that can go single-handedly win you a category if you play cats. And 2 blocks. 2 blocks from Chris Paul. I like him a lot. He definitely moved up my list.
I agree with you there, Dave. And, Chris Paul, he's a completely underrated draft pick in fantasy basketball. I do believe last year, I'm pretty sure I got him in the 2nd round even. I'm pretty positive on that. And I'm with you on Giannis. After Westbrook and after James Harden, Giannis has the most upside. I like LeBron. The guy is LeBron. LeBron's LeBron. But he gets rested. If LeBron plays 70 games this year, that's about it. I want somebody that's going to play every game, 40 minutes a game. That's going to be somebody like the Freak. That's going to be somebody like James Harden. That's going to be somebody like Russell Westbrook on kind of garbage teams where they have to carry him.
Well, that's like tonight, DFS, or was it last night they played the 76ers? I believe it was last night. It could be tonight.
So.
One of the two. I don't have a problem playing studs against teams like the 76ers now. Why? The 76ers are for real. Whether they're going to win or lose, they're going to put up a good game. A bead's back. And he's limited.
Yeah, but he's already getting more minutes than what they were saying his limit was. And it's not by a lot, but hey, his limit's this. They're going over it by 2. By 3.
Sleeper.
Because he's being effective.
Sergio Rodriguez, the point guard for the Philadelphia 76ers. I picked him up off waivers, and the man is just going off.
Speaking of teams that are for real. And speaking of Kevin Durant, Kane, what do you think about the Lakers? Didn't they just beat Golden State by 20
Showtime Lakers!
The greatest team of all time with the only unanimous MVP in the league, who happens to choke every year in the finals so far, Mr. Steph Curry. He's fallen apart in the NBA Finals this year. This Golden State team lost to the Lakers.
And the only player known, documented to survive AIDS came from the Showtime Lakers.
Wow. I think Wilt invented the cure for it. That's the rumor I heard.
He's the first person to have enough money for it.
Oh, 10,000 plus says that too.
Oh, snap. But yeah, hey, thanks again for listening in. Look for our updates on our Facebook page. We appreciate all our friends, fans, and family and local 920 podcast listeners.
And may the fantasy gods be with you. Thank you, Kane. Thank you, Dave. Gryffindor!